upon your modeling experience. You've mentioned it a couple of times. It all sounds very glamorous being a model in Paris. How has that impacted this transition? Has that made it easier for you, do you think? And do you have any desire to maybe go back to modeling and use your kind of engagement on social media to help you bring the model back, if you like?
Yeah, that's a really good, because yes, everything kind of rests, upon the modeling experience.
Yeah.
To me, modeling has been a big regret that I don't really talk about, because, like I said, it was a brief career because it was something that I agreed with my parents that I wanted to do. And, I had a relative that worked for Chanel at the time, she still does. And so she kind of put me in touch and whatever else. So, once I got in there, it was supposed to be a gap year thing, So from the beginning, my parents said, you know what, even if you like it, even if you put your education comes first. So it's always been a big regret of mine that I didn't go on and pursue it. And I was talking to somebody else, I said, but if I had, it would be a completely different story today.
Do you feel that the reason you didn't pursue it, though, is because of, the fact that your parents were keen on you to pursue your education, or were there other factors that caused you to kind of move away from the modeling industry?
Well, there was that, and then there was lots of different insides issues as well. But I think I would have been able, if I knew that this was something that I wanted to really pursue, I would have found my way around it. Because I'm like water. I found my way around everything. Whatever problem, whatever issue, I find a way around it and I own it, So I know for a fact that if my parents had implanted me the seed that, that was going to be just that, I would have carried on and I would have made a success of it. But interestingly, like I said, turning 34 and all this and wanting to get rid of my dad bod, and, just kind of, that's it. Because the longer goal is that I want to get back into modeling next year. I give myself next year to get my body back in shape and everything else. But that's it.
I know you're working really hard on that, which is amazing.
I am. And it started to work. It started to show. I'm in week 5 now. It's looking great. It's looking good for what it is.
Yeah.
But social media is a huge part nowadays, because from when I did it, when I entered the modeling industry almost 15 years ago, where you had to spend a portfolio and take pictures, it's not like that anymore. People come and check your online presence, because first and foremost, like I always say, being a model, you're a marketing rep for companies. You're basically a brand ambassador for companies. You're just to some extent, you're like the way that I say it in the jokey way, you're like a fancy coat hanger.
Let's come on to the brand ambassador thing, because the difference between an entrepreneur and an influencer, I mean, there are many differences, but one of the key differences is that now you're not really selling a product or creating your own product. You are marketing products for other brands. So you've already mentioned a couple of brands you work with. Can you kind of let us in on a few of the other brands, and how do you go about selecting brands that you work for?
Well, the top 3 that I really love to mention is, the first one is Aaron Wallace, okay, and that was the first one of the first deal that I signed to be a brand ambassador for. Amazing company, beards, hair care, and Black owned. And, that was a big focus of mine coming back, I wanted to represent the Black skincare, Black, companies. And so that's one of my favorite companies. And so there's Shake Up, there's Lumen, there's a few other brands, so there's a lot of them that I'm still in talks with, so I can't mention at the moment. Okay. But there's a lot of good things that are coming up. There's not just skincare, there's clothing as well. So that's why my account is called Yann YTA Grooming and Stylings, because it's going to be a combination of the two aspects. Interestingly, you're mentioning about being an entrepreneur and being a brand ambassador. I'm using this platform also to market my own products, because my companies have not stopped. My brands have not stopped. Well, they're still carrying on. My clothing line is coming out in August. I'm using this platform to also market my clothing line, and in a different way that I've never done before, because now I'm actually including myself doing clothing hauls and, just kind of, wearing my own stuff, which I didn't do before. I just focused on models to do that, then that is something that I do. So I'm using this platform to benefit myself and my brands too. You know, and I think that's a very smart way of doing it. That, you know, just because you're selling other people's products, it doesn't mean that you can't push your own. You know, that's
absolutely. So when it comes to whether it's selecting brands that you work with or creating your own cosmetics line, is it tailored towards black skin specifically? So when you're looking to create your own cosmetics line, are you looking at kind of different shades? Because the reason I ask that question is because some women with darker skin tones often have issues in terms of trying to select the right shade for them. And it's only recently we've seen a kind of a shift in the beauty industry with products such as Rihanna, for example, bringing out, you know, fantastic foundation line. Is that something in the back of your mind when you're thinking about creating your own cosmetics and making sure that they appeal to a wide range of skin tones? Or even when you're selecting a brand, are they specifically Black-owned businesses that you're working with?
Right, so let me tackle that first question when selecting brands first. So, you know, it's important for me for the brands to have an ethos that I agree with, you know. I want them to have representation. I think that's a very good factor. I think number one, me coming back into this was I was just wanting to exclusively work with Black businesses. But there's a lot of different aspects of the black industry for grooming and things like that still needs to develop. So there's a lot of other products that, you know, I need to source elsewhere, and so that's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't necessarily need to be Black owned, but they need to be Black friendly. Absolutely, because there's no reason why I'm going to go and, you know, try somebody's BB cream or, you know, concealer if it's not my shade. Just, I mean, you know, or as a social entrepreneur, more importantly, how are your products sourced? That's a massive, massive thing for me because, you know, I'm an eco-preneur. I've got my cooperative. We produce oils. I've got my own clothing line. It's upcycled. It's sustainable. So this is the background I come from. So when I approach a brand, when I do the research, these are the criteria that I'm looking for.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful. I think that's really good to know.
And also, interestingly, it's not, you know, because people have said, you know that, you know, no, don't just do any brand. And I never had, that's not what I was going to do. You know, number one, a brand must be up to my standards. I always say this because coming from somebody who's, you know, using, you know, the Tom Fords, the Cliniques, you know, that's the kind of world I come from. I'm not going to downgrade and represent brands that don't have that sort of quality. No.
So it's all about quality.
Absolutely, yes. Because you don't get this skin. You don't get this skin looking like this with no quality, low quality. So.
Your wife is a very lucky woman, Yann. What can I say?
Well.
So, tell us what's next for you then. How do you see this brand developing? How are you kind of positioning yourself for future challenges? Because I'm sure, you know, when you're pivoting and rebranding yourself, there must be challenges that you encounter. How do you intend to kind of overcome those and, you know, look toward the future, if you will?
Well, it's interesting, you know, as you mentioned about, you know, pivoting and changing, you know, yes, I've noticed that, you know, there's been, I've had a few conversations with some of my followers and, you know, they were just kind of a bit shocked, a bit surprised because they've known me as a certain type of, they know I'm a wild card. I don't get that wrong. They know I'm a wild card, but I don't think they knew how wild. so you know, I like to surprise people. So, you know, we have these conversations and you just kind of like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, things like that. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's about what I want to do. It's about what my vision is and what I see, where I see myself going with this. Like I said, I want to usher in a new type of, you know, influencing, if you want, you know, where you can be a husband, you can be a dad, you can be straight and stand there and do these things, you know, and I want to empower other men. So for me, that feeds into everything that I want to do in the future. So I've spoken about, you know, a possible, you know, cosmetic line, possible fragrance eventually. You know, these are all things that I'm looking to do. I'm not leaving anything that I'm doing. As far as being a social entrepreneur, I'm not. You know, these are things that I'm still pushing. They're still going on. But the emphasis will be on that kind of industry, because it's an industry that I absolutely adore. And
you know what? I think you're going to do amazingly well. Yann, I can see your vision. I wish you all of the best of luck with it in the future. I look forward to seeing what you're doing. And yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
for
Yann.
having me. And
no, you're very welcome. It's lovely to speak to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.